It was a great week 3 of the college football season. Let's recap all the games and see what happened. We're going to start off with the Friday night game that we had. We had Arizona at Kansas State. And just like I said, Kansas State absolutely dominated. Not only did they win the game, but they covered the spread with ease, just like ya boy called. It's not that Kansas State was good in this game, it's that Arizona was fucking abysmal. Arizona's offense went from godly last year to non-existent this year. I mean, 7 points for an offense like that against the K-State, they're decent, but it's not like their defense is all that. This is a game of the frauds. Arizona's not good this year. They're not making the college football playoff. They're not even going to be a fraction of what they were last year. And Kansas State, I don't think either is going to be making the playoffs. They're going to play a better team, and they're going to get fraud checked also. But this was the battle of the frauds. Kansas State came out on top. They covered, so you know I'm happy. Let's move on to the next one. There's nothing really to talk about with this bullshit. Now we're going to go to Alabama versus Wisconsin. And even though I had Wisconsin to cover, and they didn't, obviously Alabama won and covered, there's nothing I took out of this game positively for Wisconsin. Wisconsin looked fucking horrible on both sides of the ball. Now, if Van Dyke does not get injured in this game, do I think Wisconsin covers? I do. I think everything fell apart for Wisconsin once this kid went down. Once he went down and this other kid, Locke, came in and he could not throw the ball down the field whatsoever, it was over for Wisconsin. But even then, that's just offense. The defense in and of itself looked terrible as well. I don't know if it's just Jalen Milroe is that guy because he can run, he can relatively throw, kind of. But he's a dynamic quarterback who possesses that dual threat that's going to give these simplistic-ass defenses problems. Wisconsin is a decent school. It's a decent team. But Alabama's just on a different echelon. And that was the highlight difference in this game. Would the Wisconsin offense, if healthy, have kept it closer? Probably. Would they have covered? Maybe. But nevertheless, Alabama showed everybody that they are still the SEC powerhouse that they were, and that nothing is going to change. This was a little test for Alabama. They got Georgia in a couple weeks. We're going to see who's the real powerhouse, because we'll get to Georgia's game also. Alabama, great win. Offense looked fantastic. Defense looked good. But again, this was not a real test. Wisconsin sucks ass. And quite frankly, there's quite a few schools that can beat the shit out of Wisconsin. Let's move on to the next game. Now we're going to go to LSU versus South Carolina. And boy, oh boy, you guys better get ready for my rant about this game. Because holy fuck, you guys know I had South Carolina not only to cover, but to win straight up. And during that first half, I was smiling from ear to fucking ear. Lenora Sellers is godly. With those fucking contacts, glasses, he can see the entire field and balled the fuck out. If I'm not mistaken, at one point, South Carolina was up 17-zip on LSU, and it was looking like they're coasting to a victory. Then, of course, everything goes wrong. Sellers goes down with a serious injury, and essentially, even though he returned to the game only for one drive, it was over. He was a shell of himself and couldn't do a fucking thing about it, and that's the worst part of it all. Where do I start with this game? I am so fucking mad. that South Carolina blew this game. Because the saddest part about this is that LSU sucks. LSU sucks. They could not beat this South Carolina team healthy. Sellers does not go down, then South Carolina wins this with ease. Even with an entire second half without Sellers, LSU barely fucking won. If it wasn't for the refs, they wouldn't have won. Let's understand this. LSU won this game by 3 fucking points. South Carolina had 2, not 1, but 2 pick sixes taken off the board by the fucking refs. The first one, fine, I get it. That second one, which was a pick six, that like I think it was like a 90-yard pick six or whatever, that would have put the South Carolina up by I think 11 at that point, assuming they made the extra point. it would have been over. Right then and there, it would have been over. But of course, South Carolina gets called for some bullshit penalty. Some bullshit after the interception, roughing. I think the guy hit the quarterback or whatever. Bullshit. Wiped the touchdown off the board. And obviously this fucking backup quarterback couldn't do a fucking thing about it. LSU, you are such frauds. Brian Kelly is a shit coach. The quarterback is mid at best. And you are so fucking lucky you lost to South Carolina. I mean, you beat South Carolina because your asses were this close to losing to a fucking school like the Gamecocks. LSU almost got fucked by a cock. That's the reality of what happened in this game. But they got lucky that one of the Cock's pieces got injured. LSU is on fraud alert. They are going to lose quite a few games this year. And I can't wait till they play a better fucking school so I can fade them again and I can make my money. Because yes, I still won and I was profitable because obviously I had more on them to cover the spread. But damn, they should have won that game. Damn, they should have won that game. And I am fucking pissed. LSU sucks balls. South Carolina, good shit. Sellers, I hope you return because next time you're playing and South Carolina's playing a big school and they're a big underdog, you know who I'm going to go be betting the spread on. Let's move on to the next game. BC at Missouri. A surprising game. BC was up early. I think like 14-0, 14-3, something like that. And for a hot second, Missouri looked horrible. Luther Burden was losing his fucking mind and shit. But what's actually very interesting is that do you really have a star receiver if he's not throwing temper tantrums? I'm just saying. So if anything, this is a positive Missouri should take away, that Luther Burden throwing these temper tantrums indicates that he is going to be a superstar receiver, whether it's for Missouri or the NFL, but he's already a great receiver for Missouri. Missouri got tested heavy. And I think it was more so that they underestimated how good BC actually was, and not that Missouri's a fraud. I don't think Missouri's are frauds. I just think they just played two very easy teams in the first 2 weeks, thought shit was going to be sweet, and then ran to a decent school like Boston College. And they found out shit really wasn't sweet. They played well for the most part, but again, the defensive lapses early are a bit concerning considering, this is an ACC school. Nevertheless, they won the game. Coaching is great on this Missouri squad. The overall offense is great. Defense could use a little work, but again, I'm not too worried about an SEC defense. Missouri did what they had to do. They took care of business against a Boston College team that gave them a bit problems, but they won the game. Did they cover? Unfortunately, no, because I would have won a fuck ton of money, but that's besides the point. They did win the game. Good win by Missouri. And I still have confidence to bet them against the good teams. I'm really excited for Missouri to play a bigger school so I can make some little dollars off of them because I feel like they're going to be a little bit underrated by the public now because of how close this game was. But nevertheless, great job, Missouri. Let's move on. Oregon versus Oregon State. And I was shocked by how well Oregon came out. Dylan Gabriel was on a mission in this game. He was pissed. He was super efficient in this game. Looked absolutely unbelievable. I mean, Oregon State could not do a fucking thing. They couldn't stop Oregon whatsoever on defense. They couldn't even keep up with them a slight on offense. The final score was 49-14. Shit was a fucking blowout. Oregon finally played to their potential, did what they had to do, and showed why they were as hyped as they were before the season started. We'll see how this Oregon team does for the rest of the year because, again, Oregon State is not a real challenge. They're not that good this year. And again, necessarily, you got tested by Boise 2 weeks ago, or this is your first game you won, efficiently. And in a way that, people are going to come out and say, yeah, you won a great game. I want to see Oregon against a better team. But nevertheless, good shit, Oregon. Good shit, Dylan Gabriel. You had a lot of doubters and you had a lot of pressure and you rose to the occasion. Great win, Oregon. Let's move on. West Virginia versus Pittsburgh. I'm going to talk about this game quickly. Pittsburgh with a nasty, nasty, nasty comeback. All my West Virginia people, damn, I feel bad for you because they had that game in their hands and they should have won it. They really, really should have won it, but they just fell short when the time mattered most. Pittsburgh, good win. I had Pittsburgh to win and to cover, so you know I'm happy with this result. But again, two teams that are kind of mid are not going to make the playoffs and are not going to make any real noise this year. There's nothing to even talk about with them. Let's move on to the next game. Good win, Pittsburgh, and good W pick by me. All right, Texas A&M versus Florida. I love this game. You guys know I had Texas A&M to cover and to win, which they did. They looked really, really good out there, even with the starting quarterback out, which goes to show this backup may actually be better than the original starter. But nevertheless, this is more so not that Texas A&M had a good win, that Florida sucks balls. They also ran out with the backup quarterback. The backup was even worse than the fucking Matza boy, Mertz, Matza, whatever his name is. Horrible, horrible display by Florida. They have nothing to look forward to this year. They already have 2 losses and at least 5 more tough games. Them reaching 4 wins would be an absolute fucking miracle. They looked egregiously bad out there. What the hell happened to this Florida program? As I say again, bring back Urban Meyer, bring back Aaron Hernandez, and bring back Jesus Christ into that Florida Gators locker room, and then you will see some results. Great win, Texas A&M. Y'all look good, but again, it's Florida. They fucking suck. I want to see you beat a good team still. Let's move on. Georgia versus Kentucky. Boy, oh boy, was I shocked by this game. Where the hell did Georgia's offense go? I mean, seriously, where the hell did Georgia's offense go? They were non-existent. Let's remember, this Kentucky team lost to South Carolina by like 30 points last week. They were 10-point favorites in that game, and they lost outright. They were now, 22, 23, 24-point underdogs against Georgia? They lost by 1 point. They damn near beat Georgia. Carson Beck overrated? Probably. I know he's dating, I think, Haley or Hannah Cavender, so that could be it as well. You got to take into account that pussy is getting into his head and shit. And, he's too focused on the bitches and not the actual football play. Georgia is on fraud alert. Beating a Kentucky by 1 point is not impressive at all. Kentucky is not a good school. And yeah, I know the starting quarterback for Kentucky is the former quarterback for Georgia, and he knows the playbook, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't explain shit. 13 points against this Kentucky team is straight up embarrassing. And Georgia needs to look in the mirror and tell themselves, am I really who I think I am, before you have to play? Because the big teams, right? Because again, Georgia has Alabama coming up, Texas, if I'm not mistaken, Ole Miss as well, and a bunch of other tough games. Georgia is going to lose at least 2 of those if they're playing like this. I mean, they're not beating Texas like this. They're not beating Alabama like this. Georgia, step the fuck up. Good job, Kentucky. I'm going to say that. You didn't win the game, but goddamn, you covered and you played your fucking asses off. And putting a team like Georgia, who was the best team in the country, up against their backs like this was pretty impressive. Congratulations, Kentucky. Good shit. And that was our recap for week 3 of the college football season. It was a great week. I'm excited for week 4. Let's get it, baby. I'll see you next time.